Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. If I asked you what the Hive worshipped, you might in a really broad context say darkness, and you would be somewhat correct. They worship the idea of sword logic, and at very least they worship the Witness. The Witness's particular manifestations of darkness, of course, are forged through the perspectives of strength, force, control, force of will, and swords. But what if I told you that they were not the only ones to worship darkness, or that this was not the only way to worship darkness? It might seem like a very troubling statement to you, and at first you might be right. And yet, in the Inspiral Lorebook from the Root of Nightmares raid, there is an instance where we're told about other cultures that did worship at the foot of darkness, but not at the foot of the Witness. Today, I wanted to dive into the records of 2 dead civilizations, and to talk about what we learn from their beliefs about darkness. Crucially, it needs to be pointed out that their views of darkness contradict our typical understandings of it as it applies to being a negative force. They even seem to frame darkness as a positive force, one that even goes as far as bringing joy. There is much that we don't know about the darkness, and this is some of the strangest sets of interpretations I've ever read about it. But today, we'll understand darkness a little better for the time spent understanding the long-dead thoughts of the Kugu and the Ecumene. 2 civilizations that the Witness wiped out. Civilizations that worshipped darkness as well. So, who are the Ecumene and who are the Kugu? Well, the short answer is that they're both species that were wiped out by Oryx and his siblings in the earlier days of their crusades across the stars. The Kugu died first, and whilst the Ecumene pushed back hard, after Oryx had truly ascended and claimed the mantle of Taken King, there was nothing that they could do to prevent their own annihilation. What Oryx's records in the Books of Sorrow never seemed to reveal to us is that the Kugu and the Ecumene made use of the powers of darkness in some fashion. Perhaps not the same paracausal force of darkness that was wielded by Oryx and the Hive, but most certainly the kind of darkness that connects all beings and thoughts and memories. The strands of fate that hold the record of the entire universe. To understand this, we need to read the lore entries of both civilizations from the Inspiral Lorebook. They are the first and third entries of the lorebook, named The Habitable World and The Art of Symbiosis, respectively. They read as follows. Firstly, the story of the Ecumene and their experience with what they call darkness, in other words, the deep. A dream of worlds in unity, millennia gone by, alien and familiar all at once. It leaves behind a data fragment to mark its passing. Record, grief effusion. After the informant had come, bringing reports of the end of the Ammonite by the sword of the festering Hive, we did not yet know disaster. Unusual signals at the edge of our habitable world suddenly had meaning. The intelligence thrice over credible enough to mobilize. And yet, those at the core of our united Ecumene did not know the scent of fear. After all, it was to be understood that they would fall. The Ammonite were only one, not a unity. Divided. Meanwhile, our habitable world always grew. We offered the fathomless deep to any who would wish to learn of our synergy, and it glossed the way to become more than we were. The day the war began, I was far from disaster. There was celebration. A new client species drank of the deep and understood the world as we tasted it. The joy marked the air, and all of us shared it. For all were now Ecumene. Welcome, welcome. What could bitter such a thing? Sunrise scents were long fading when I read the first report of strife, though delight lingered sweet on my breath. Buoys offline, sentinels unresponsive, a first strike, a lingering scent we could not understand, though the deep indicated familiarity. From the beacons, Ayat, Ayat. I set this day in memory above all others. Enact, remember. It has been long and long since the war began. The habitable world shrinks by the moment. We know not what the future holds but crisis and fear. I set this day in memory so that we will know when the lessons are taught in some warless future. Unbreathed but true in the fragile hope all of us shelter. Fear did not come suddenly. The first harbingers of violence arrived on the same winds as joy. That of value must be cherished, for it may already be too late. In the deep, may we be kept. It's worth understanding here, but the informant, which is noted at the very beginning of this, is undoubtedly Teox, who informed the Ecumene of the coming storm that would be Oryx and his siblings. This record of the darkness by the Ecumene is one that explains a great degree about their civilization, but it also goes some way to demonstrate the power with which the Ecumene dwelled. Their might was one born of synergy, one born of unity. The implications of this passage are startling because it seems as though the Ecumene used darkness somehow to join their thoughts into a single habitable space. And yes, if you've kept up with all things Veil lore-shaped, then I'm absolutely thinking of the same thing you're thinking of. The Veil, the Cloud Arc, it's all kind of fitting into a very similar vibe, but more connected, intimately so. The Ecumene were all able to seemingly drink of the deep and then become one with those who had done so prior to that moment. If not in person, then in the experiences that they all shared. Thoughts and emotions seem to pass between individuals within the Ecumene freely here, and their habitable world isn't so much a planet but a realm of thought, a place expanded by the addition of every mind to it. This understanding and use of darkness is one fundamentally made with cooperation and union in mind, one that relies on what we learned about Strand to operate, perhaps. This idea that all creatures are linked by the web, and that together the threads of fate bind us. The Ecumene might not have wielded Strand, but they certainly seem to understand the fundamentals behind it, as it seems to align with how they saw the darkness, saw the deep. At the end of the passage, the phrase, "In the deep may we be kept," is used, and this is also something that has interesting parallels to the other species of mention. In particular, it has parallels to the ideas of the Scions, who believe that in death they go to join the chorus of their ancestors, a great song not of word but thought and being. The strange thing is that this idea of being preserved in the darkness after one has passed on is also represented in the Kyugu's understanding of the darkness, which is revealed to us in their raid lore entry, The Art of Symbiosis. Take a listen to this. A trance imagining of darkness sweet like honey, a life refracted through another's eyes like splintered light. It leaves behind an imperfectly translated data fragment to mark its passing. Anyway, beloved sibling, if you want to catch me while I'm still wearing this body, you'll need to come home in the next couple of cycles. I don't mind if you'd prefer to wait until I'm down by the untranslatable among our ancestors, but you might get a different sort of chat. I'm excited about it, genuinely. I still hear from our parents, from our great-parents, distantly in my night trances. And there are those nectar-made moments, you know the ones, when you turn your thoughts to the darkness and just listen, and the long sum of Kyugu history graven there reflects dark, comforting advice. I have lived out my life with the tenebrous warmth of our ancestors over me like a cloak, atmosphere, between us and nothingness. It's different. It's distant. I've drunk of the nectar a few times in the last cycles, and I touch briefly that concurrence of us all. And more, I think it is time to be part of it. I want to know the truths our ancestors keep close, and it is my turn to guide our future's children. I know we argued the last time we spoke about it. You thought I was moving too fast toward aging metamorphosis, but really, I just think you've been away from home too long. Don't take it as my urging to get on with the next stage of your life. Just take it as I miss you. Funny, isn't it? How can you miss someone when you know they're always in the dark? I close my eyes, and in the warm nest hide of sleep, I know you are real and happy and out there on some other part of the world, far from the river, far from the untranslatable, where our ancestors dream, exist together. But it isn't the same as having you near, knowing your truth is under the same stars. Being able to simply turn my head, face, bloom, and ask for your opinion. Dear sibling, come home, live in my house, and let me dream, exist close to you again, whether in this shape or the new one I will take on. I will not be the same, but which of us ever is? You are not the same as you were as a child either. No matter the form of the existence, I will love you. And once again, we see this idea that death is not the end, that darkness preserves one's existence even beyond the mortal coil, that the form of existence may not necessarily be the same, but that it is there regardless. We are all connected, always, even in death, regardless of time and space, ancestors, descendants, near and far, it seemingly doesn't matter. Darkness connects everything, and in that, the Kugu took comfort, because they seemingly knew their ancestors could guide their offspring, and that no matter what, one day they would all be together. With all that said, it makes me wonder if there is a more deliberate reason why these peoples were wiped out by Oryx. Were they targets? Their conceptions of darkness run against the grain of what the witness would seek or demand, it seems. So perhaps that is the reason they were put to death. Perhaps this is why the Kugu had to be scoured and the Ecumene were taken. It is worth remembering that the witness is only a voice in the darkness. The witness, above all, seems to desire control, and is obsessive in that control. All things considered, perhaps that is why it stood in opposition to these peoples, and this is why now they are dead. Regardless, we now know more about the positive nature of darkness, and that it is a force that has been used, worshipped, and revered by more beings than just the Hive. What we will do with this understanding, as beings that can now wield darkness, is up to us. The future is full of possibilities. Above all, I wonder this. Maybe death isn't the end. But that's all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave a like, and leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. Do you reckon that there's a reason why these societies in particular were destroyed by the Witness and Oryx? Do you reckon that there's a correlation? And what do you make of the fact that seemingly these records state that they worshipped or used or interacted heavily with the darkness? Let me know down below in the comments section what you think. And of course, if you want more Destiny content, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.